Hello and welcome to Slice of Pie Live, the show that I occasionally do and am trying to do more frequently. You see, I would love to actually do this live stream weekly, to be completely honest, and so I'm going to try to do it every Tuesday. I know it's a weird day of the week, but consistently I seem to have Tuesdays off. And honestly, I mean, not much to it. Just kind of the announcement that we're going to be doing this stream every Tuesday, at least for the current foreseeable future. And if you're seeing this in post, thank you still for watching. I enjoy everybody stopping by to hang out. That being said, I guess we should really kind of talk about the first thing that I really want to talk about on all of this. And that is actually kind of a bit of an announcement slash launch that has actually happened this week. So, believe it or not, I actually did finally do something with one of my second channels. GreaterThanPie Gaming is no more. Well, sort of. It's there, and in fact, actually, I've just changed the name and changed the concept a little bit. The fact of the matter is it is still gaming focused, much like the original intent was, but this one's become more of a personal channel, believe it or not. So I actually created what's called Virtual Wolfy. It's a character and account setup that is designed entirely for personal type Let's Plays that are done by me through my character Wolfy. So that's actually one of the more interesting things that we kind of have launched. It's been a lot of work. I'm gonna be completely honest, like I am a lot more sore than I normally am with the type of content that I normally make. Normally, like I make everything around tech. I'm sitting down or standing up, but like never do I usually do content where I have to move around a lot. And on the Virtual Wolfy channel, like I think one of the first videos, actually it was the first video that I posted on there, was Beat Saber. And I'm good at Beat Saber, but I'd never actually done full body tracked Beat Saber combined with like actually having to think about what was doing, and practicing and rehearsing and like getting into the role of a character. And so I honestly, like I learned a lot from it. And personally, honestly, like have almost like I've lost weight because I've taken on a character that has essentially like is more physically active than I am, as weird as that sounds. So it's actually pretty interesting stuff. So if you want to check it out, I do have it linked on my channel. I'll try to drop it into the description of this live stream at some point, but it is Virtual Wolfy. And it's kind of a VTuber, sort of. There's actually a lot more to it. And I have a video about the whole process of doing it in the works that's more tailored towards like what is technology, like the technology that drives it. And so I'd want to go into more detail on that after that, but essentially like that's just another channel that I'm going to be running in the background here. I actually did a live stream on that one today. It's okay. I still have a lot to figure out about live streaming gameplay, but it did work. So yeah. That being said, for the most part, like this channel, like the things that I'm working on here, I've actually been trying to get into a set schedule about recording and uploading. Lately, I've been uploading on Fridays, and I actually kind of want to change that to try to get Tuesday, Thursday, because on the other channel, I do Monday, Wednesday, Friday. So if I can do Tuesday, Thursday, I can actually kind of balance it out a little bit. And I honestly like really want to get us into like the habit of actually having a schedule that you guys can predict and know about. Just because honestly, like I enjoy doing this, and I know that you guys like it more when I post on specific days. So if you have any suggestions or anything that you would like to see, I would be happy to hear them and take that feedback. I do have some fun stuff in the work though, so I won't spoil too much about that. Also, yeah, I almost forgot. This is really hard to see, but I actually now have GreaterThanPie shirts and hoodies. Actually, the character that I have for the other channel is wearing one of our hoodies. I don't even own that color yet, but I do. It is made in that color. We are using Teespring, so most of the overhead's through them, but it's just another way to support the channel if you would like. All right. Now that that's done, let's actually talk about some of the tech news that came out this week. We had Computex, which normally is a much bigger event, but I think because of everything that happened in the world and everything that's currently happening, it was pretty scaled back this time around. So let's actually talk about it, because essentially there is really the consensus is that there is one winner, and we're gonna have to talk a lot about that one, and then two losers, one more so than the other. So let's actually get into that. So let's actually start with Intel. So Gamers Nexus, I think, put it best. Intel, honestly, like, their Computex presence was really bad. They talked a lot of BS and not a lot of actual product releases. In fact, actually, the most interesting things that they should have talked about and they didn't were the there's a new NUC, which actually looks really cool. And the Intel NUCs are still currently something that doesn't have an AMD equivalent yet. And so when it comes down to it, like, that NUC would have actually been a good announcement. They talked a lot about their laptops and finally getting on a 7 nanometer, because I think that's right now where they're able to beat AMD best. And so, like, when it comes down to it, Intel's entire presence was like a lot of fluff, a lot of speak for specifically investors, but not a lot of actual, like, product releases, which was different than NVIDIA, who actually did do a product release, but wasn't a very smart one. So NVIDIA released and announced the 3080 Ti and the 3070 Ti, which we knew was coming. Like, I think we knew this was coming as far back as the launch of the 6900 XT, because, one second. But we knew this was coming as far back as then, because NVIDIA doesn't like to not be on top anywhere, and the fact that AMD struck them where they weren't meeting the market meant that we were going to see something from them. They actually kind of failed to hit the mark, though, because their original goal was to hit AMD at the $1,000 price point. And instead, they what they did was they went to $1,200, which ends up being extremely tone deaf. So honestly, like, the way that the GPU market has been, a $1,200 GPU doesn't make much sense. And personally, I honestly don't think it was very smart. I think that releasing this kind of product right now was a really, really bad idea. I think that it makes NVIDIA look worse than they already did when it comes to specifically the GPU market, because they've already been kind of looked at as the villain in a lot of this, because just the way that they've been, like, releasing their stack has just been weird. Like, they haven't released the cheaper stuff, and then the pricing on, like, the 3060 was, like, really wonky. And so, like, it's, as somebody who hasn't been able to upgrade my PC because I've been looking for a GPU and wanting a GPU, I look at this as, like, why does this exist when there should just be more 3080s or more 3070s? Like, the 3070 Ti literally goes right up against the 3080. And so it's like, why did they choose to make this? And the only reason they chose to make it was because AMD had cards, like, just a little bit above the 3080 or the 3070 and a little bit above the 3080 for less than the 3090. And so they just did this because they needed to essentially beat AMD. And because of that, everyone's kind of looking at them like, what are you doing? Like personally, I am questioning whether or not that was a very good idea. And we'll see in the long run, right? Like these cards are going to sell out. They're going to sell out immediately. You or I won't be able to buy one. And maybe in the secondhand market, this will be like the 1080 Ti, which pretty much like sat at the absolute top of GPUs so long that the 2080 wasn't even really able to compete with the value that the 1080 Ti brought. So we'll see. Like maybe in the long run, it will be a good GPU, but right now in the short term, it's just short-sighted. Now, that brings us to what everyone has pretty much been saying was the definitive winner of Computex this year, and that was AMD. And AMD did announce some stuff, but they like announced the right stuff. And that's why everyone's been like much happier with them. So AMD announced new APUs. So APUs are their integrated graphics CPUs. Generally speaking, they are used for budget builds, but in the past, they've been actually pretty competitive for gaming. So mostly on like the low end. So like they would edge out like, you would never use a GT 710 in a system that has an APU built into it. So AMD is releasing the 5700G, the 5600G, and the 5300G. Their specs are as followed. We've got an 8-core 16-thread with 8 CUs, 6-core 12-thread with 7 CUs, and 4-core 8-thread with 6 CUs. The CUs are specifically graphics cores built into it. So effectively, you've got 8 Vega cores built into the die. And honestly, like that's probably going to be pretty decent, actually. And honestly, like right now in this market, if they haven't come to market yet, they're supposed to be 359 and 259 for the 7 and the 6. I actually don't have the price of the 3 yet, but if they come to market and you're able to actually buy one, like buying an 8-core 16-thread processor with graphics for around 359, so $360, and you can get your system up and running, it's worth it. Like, and the thing is, like, you'd still be able to play like Rocket League probably just fine, League of Legends just fine, Overwatch you'd probably be able to play just fine. The games that you would struggle with would be like Cyberpunk, maybe The Witcher. VR experiences would be difficult to do on an APU, but at the same time, like it's possible and you can do it. So honestly, like if you are desperate to build a PC right now, an APU would probably be a really good option, especially over the Intel options, because the Intel options, I think it's supposed to be like 1.5 to like 3 times better than the Intel integrated graphics, which are better than their integrated graphics from their last generation. So like AMD is just still like kicking Intel's butt in integrated graphics, which I mean makes sense. They are both a graphics company and a CPU processor, so they have a lot of additional time and effort put into GPUs. So it's not like they're starting from zero. So honestly, like pretty competitive things coming, and honestly the right announcement to make. Even though they did have some GPUs to bring out, they actually saved those for afterward. Those were the AMD Radeon Pro 68W, 66W, and 66WM, or actually it's W68. The W is supposed to be on the other side. Point is, those are actually workstation GPUs, and they are proper workstation GPUs. They're not like the 3090 where it's not really a workstation GPU, or the Titan. These are for actual workstation applications. Pretty awesome IO on them. I think it's like 6 mini display ports, which is pretty good. And honestly, like I'd love to take a look to see like what's the true difference between like an AMD workstation card and a gaming one, but they're more expensive anyway. Like it's not like we're going to be able to just pop one into our system like it's nothing. So yeah, definitely very, very interesting. And I look forward to seeing how these affect things. So that pretty much wraps up Computex. Essentially, I almost missed the biggest announcement. AMD is launching a new feature that is honestly impressive. It's called Fidelity FX, right? Yes. Wow, I did not actually write the name. Well, it's called Fidelity FX Super Sampling, and it is the DLSS competitor that AMD needed, essentially, because a lot of like the conversation around the 6900 and the 6800 they're good and they compete, but when you turn on DLSS makes the NVIDIA card more competitive. When it comes down to it, AMD having it will help them compete a lot in that regard. But more importantly, it's open source and it can be put into any GPU, meaning they're supporting the 10 series GPUs from NVIDIA. AMD just walked in and went on June 22nd on your Pascal cards, your Polaris cards, and your Vega. It would be Vega, and then it would also be, wow, I'm drawing a blank. Whatever the 5700 XT's code name was and the 60 series card code name was, it all gets this feature. And with that, though, essentially, like, AMD kind of like just honestly, it reflects really, really well in them, and it reflects really, really well on the industry. So it's like they're going to pretty much make DLSS what FreeSync was to G-Sync. G-Sync is still around, but FreeSync FreeSync monitors with G-Sync compatibility are still much more like valuable to gamers than a G-Sync monitor, because you can use it with any GPU, AMD or NVIDIA, and essentially you're able to use it. So this is probably going to take DLSS down a peg because of the fact that it is open source. It can be implemented. The game that it's going to be in is Godfall, I think it is. It's the looter slasher created by Take-Two, the people who created Borderlands, which apparently also has a lot of AMD features in it, including like Radeon Boost 2.0, which we actually did a video on Radeon Boost recently, and it's actually been doing really well on this channel. So essentially, like AMD came out here and here's something that you probably would need because you can't buy a GPU. Here's something to make your GPU better because you can't buy a GPU. And here's some workstation cards because we need to actually tackle the workstation area because we have the EPYC processors and we've got actual workstation parts that are required for us to have. So honestly, overall, AMD had a really good showing in that department. So yeah, it's why they hands down won Computex. I mean, it's pretty much been the consensus in the entire tech sphere that Computex was won by AMD this year. So that's pretty interesting in my book. All right, so that's Computex. Let's actually talk about Vivecon. Yeah. I know I'm one of those few who actually went to Vivecon. Okay, so Vivecon. What is Vivecon? Well, HTC, yes, the one who makes cell phones, and also the maker of like these things right here. They had their own convention this year, and it was interesting. It was interesting. They announced two headsets. They announced the Vive Pro 2 and it's not a consumer product. I can't remember because it's pretty much like irrelevant to me. But essentially, they announced these things, and yeah, they've been kind of beat up a little bit. And there's also the new trackers and like the face tracking stuff that they have in there as well. So essentially, like HTC came out, was like, hey, here's all this cool stuff, but you're gonna want to use another headset other than ours because like the Vive Pro 2 just hasn't been reviewed very favorably. Not to mention it's still using the old like Vive controllers, which are by far one of the worst controllers in like the entire like VR space. Like, yeah. So essentially, like they announced all this stuff. The new Vive Pro costs $799 just for the headset. That's not including base stations. I actually just bought base stations. They're up there mounted on my wall. And I think I paid $150 per base station and I got two of them. So like that's for base station 1s instead of base station 2s. So like if you were to actually buy like base station 2s, which are $200 a piece, so let's say an additional $400, you're looking at a VR kit. Oh, and that doesn't even come with controllers. That's right. So you're looking at a VR kit in excess of $1,000, which is opposed to the Valve Index, which you can get for $1,000 with a better controller and closer specs. Like I think the Vive Pro 2 comes with higher refresh rates out of the box. Actually, no, it's 120 hertz. And it has a higher resolution. It's 248 by 248 pixels, which is a lot actually. So yeah, it's an interesting product. I think that for the most part, like VR enthusiasts might like it, but if they've got an index, maybe not so much. Granted, the indexes are incredibly fragile, and the Vive stuff has been like tanks. I've already dropped my trackers like 3 times and banged them against the ground, like using full body tracking. They're great. They are actual tanks of a product. So honestly, like it's interesting to see. Like honestly, VR in general is getting more interesting to me because of the fact that I can actually buy hardware in VR, and I can do things in VR that I can't do in like everyday life. So like it's been really interesting. That being said, I've been pushing my GPU to its limits. I cannot stably run VR chat for more than 30 minutes and then it crashes. So I don't know if I'm overheating something. I don't know. I'm under liquid, so maybe I'll have to figure that out and make a video about it at some point. So that's pretty much all of the tech news. It's actually been really slow with tech news lately. I guess probably because of the fact that like nobody wants to announce anything while there's a chip shortage, and everything requires chips that are in shortage. So yeah, I mean, honestly, if you guys in the chat have anything to talk about, I'd be happy. No. That's okay. Honestly, like there's really not much going on in the tech space. Like I know for a fact that like GPUs are still hard to get, which makes what I do on this channel difficult. I know recently I did a shift towards custom keyboards because again, like product is actually available. Like go figure, like we're in a situation where GPUs are so hard to get that this hobby, custom keyboards, is easier to get a hold of than GPUs. But like essentially, like when it comes down to it, like nobody's announcing anything, nobody's really trying anything too much right now, just because like why do it? You know, when it comes down to it, like you're only going to get backlash unless you did what AMD did, which is where they just kind of like announced things that are less desirable for mining. I mean, we could talk about how Ethereum is getting nerfed. That's actually interesting. So Ethereum is actually probably going to go way down in price because of the fact that they are changing it to like Ethereum 2, which is a proof of stake kind of situation. And with that, essentially, GPUs might be back in stock because GPU mining is going to be less profitable than it was in the past. Not to mention, NVIDIA did limit on the 3080 Ti a lot more crypto than just Ethereum. So honestly, it's interesting to see that like mining has been taking a bit of a hit from all of this stuff. I actually don't think that mining is the bigger issue when it comes to GPU shortages. I really do think that there's an unprecedented amount of demand versus the supply. And like, yeah, mining's probably not helping because it's just raising the demand, but like scalpers will be scalpers. Like, I think recently in the news, like Pokemon card scalpers, like caused Target to stop selling Pokemon cards. Plain and simple. Like scalpers have been so prevalent since like everything that happened with the pandemic and everything that like, I'm not surprised in the slightest that we're having issues with GPUs. I know for a fact my local Best Buy still hasn't had one in stock like since this whole thing started. So I really don't have too much more. Well, thank you guys so much for tuning in. If you enjoyed watching this, you know, please leave it a like if you want to. Honestly, like I intend to stream every Tuesday, at least for a little while now, because that seems to be the day that my work doesn't want to schedule me. So Tuesdays we'll do a live stream. We'll do a live stream on both channels. So that's both GreaterThanPie and Virtual Wolfy, which are the two channels that I will be streaming on. If you want to see gameplay and video game stuff, that is on the Virtual Wolfy channel. But here is your home for all things tech, and it's also where my my face is. Virtual Wolfy, I use an avatar. Actually, I kind of want to. I'm gonna stop signing off for one thing. I do kind of want to like share one thing with you guys really quickly because this is actually kind of funny. So, the Virtual Wolfy channel might seem like it came out of nowhere, but back in the early days of GreaterThanPie, we did Let's Plays. And one of the concepts I had for one of them was like using my character as me. And it was like back in like 2012, I think it was. And I was talking about hand animating back then. My characters, like the pie that I use as our logo was created back then. But like the characters that I used were like not chibi, they're called kawaii. They're like Hello Kitty is the art style that they were kind of like drawn after. And I was like literally thinking about like hand animating like facial movements and hand movements based off of waveforms in the timeline. That's actually how I used to do lip syncing. Terrible way to do it, by the way. And so hilariously, it came full circle when I started doing the stuff for the Virtual Wolfy channel, because I literally like it works the same way that I would have done that other video. And I was literally only going to do one, like a single Let's Play series with like 3 episodes and like hand animating everything, because it would have been so much work. But now I can literally just pop a certain software on, plug my Razer Kylo in, the only time I actually use it, by the way. But plug my Razer Kylo in, and then it does the rest. And that would have been a that would have been a blessing when that video was originally conceived. I never did it because it was too much work, but it was really funny to like look back at this. And essentially, like, after a friend of mine, Koizumi, helped me set it all up, I was like, this is pretty much like exactly what I envisioned, except it takes like no work. So I just wanted to share that, because I've been literally thinking about that and how much fun that whole thing has been to set up. And as I said, there is a video in the works about talking about it. I just have to figure out how to take my idea to video form. Essentially, like, hello person, your chat message just popped up. Here, let me respond to you in chat, because it's gonna have a stream delay. But so like that whole, like, everything that I've done to like set that up has been fascinating to me, and I really wanted to like share it with you guys, because it's like the technology that drives VTubers. And believe it or not, in that community, that's apparently a taboo term, even though it's like the thing that is used to address them. I know that's confusing, but either way, like the technology that powers that is so fascinating to me, because it's just like they've taken things to an extreme that 5 years ago we weren't able to do. Like, we weren't able to do face tracking using a webcam. Like, you'd have to buy like a Kinect or something specialized. Like, I actually have what's known as a Leap motion controller, which is done just for hand tracking. And like, you used to have to use such complicated technology. Now, like a couple of Vive trackers and a webcam, and you can pretty much do anything. So as I said, I have to figure out a way to package this. I already know the title of the video, which is funny because like it kind of just happened. But yeah, so essentially, I just wanted you guys to like know what's going on, like what's behind the scenes, and just a little bit of tech news and stuff going on in the world. So with that though, we're gonna wrap up today, guys. So thank you guys so much for watching. If you enjoyed watching this, I already see that 2 of you guys left a like. I really appreciate it. And I am best. I think it's supposed to be like best, but with a Z. Thank you for commenting. I really do appreciate it. And thank you to everyone else who's checked out the stream and anybody who watches it in post. I really do appreciate it. So thank you guys so much. My name is Wolfy, and I will see you guys next time.